Have you ever wondered about the true origins of the things we just kind of casually consume in our modern wellness culture?
Oh, all the time. I mean, it's everywhere now.
Right. I want you to really picture a scene for a second. Imagine it's, a typical Tuesday evening.
Yeah.
You're exhausted from a long day at the office, the commute was terrible, your shoulders are super tight, so you head to a local yoga studio.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Exactly.
Mhm.
You walk in, you take off your shoes, you roll out your rubber mat, and the lighting is perfectly dim. There's that faint smell of like Palo Santo in the air.
Maybe some ambient synth music
Right.
playing softly in the corner.
Exactly. And the instructor, who has this incredibly soothing voice, asks everyone to sit cross-legged, close their eyes, set an intention for the hour, and recite a mantra.
Right.
And maybe it's just a simple English affirmation, something like, I am at peace, or I welcome positive energy, or maybe just a really drawn-out
Which is very comforting.
It is. It feels good. It genuinely helps you downshift your nervous system. In that context, it's essentially a psychological tool to center yourself. But what if I told you that this modern westernized version of a mantra is it's like looking at a plastic toy car in a sandbox and genuinely believing you understand the aerospace engineering of a supersonic jet.
That is a very stark contrast, but honestly, it is entirely accurate. We have to completely strip away our modern preconceptions for this one.
Yeah, we really do.
We are stepping completely out of the realm of, modern psychology, out of the realm of mood-boosting wellness apps, and entering what can really only be described as an ancient, highly systematic technology.
Exactly. Today we're taking a deep dive far, far beyond the idea of chanting positive affirmations in a strip mall yoga studio. We are plunging headfirst into the ancient, incredibly complex, deeply mathematical, and honestly sometimes terrifyingly intense world of traditional mantra science.
It gets intense very quickly.
It really does.
Yeah.
And to do this, we are pulling our insights from a very specific, deeply experienced source. We are exploring the teachings of Osman, who is widely known on his YouTube channel and podcast as the Blind Muslim Yogi.
Right.
And his background is something we absolutely need to unpack before we go any further because his resume is, well, it's just unlike anything I've ever read.
It is extensive, and, it provides the necessary weight to the claims we're going to explore today.
Yeah, so Osman is a master Bacalo bioenergy healer, and he specializes specifically in critical care recovery and terminal illnesses, which is huge.
Yes.
He describes utilizing telepathic healing capabilities that operate on quantum and entanglement principles, which honestly is a whole deep dive in itself.
Oh, absolutely. We could do hours just on that.
Right. But what really anchors his authority in the specific subject of mantra and meditation science is that he has been practicing at an advanced level for 50 years. 50 years.
That's a lifetime of dedication.
Yeah, and he attained his first samadhi experience, which is essentially a state of profound, complete meditative absorption or spiritual illumination by the age of 19.
Wow. And there is a critical piece of context regarding his current state that listeners really need to keep in mind here.
Correct, the name.
Exactly. As his moniker suggests, Osman is permanently blind, and he has been since May of 2023. This is incredibly vital to understand because later on in this deep dive, when he's describing these highly visual, incredibly intricate geometric diagrams or like multi-armed, intensely detailed humanoid entities.
Yeah, the visual stuff gets crazy.
It does. And he is describing things that can only be fully articulated by someone who previously had normal eyesight. He is relying on a profound internal vision and the memory of those visual inputs from before his sight was lost.
It adds such an incredible layer of sensory depth to his descriptions. And I want to mention, he does offer a free 5-minute yoga and meditation program available for download from his website, which is yogawellness786.com.
Which is a great starting point for people.
It really is. It's his way of providing foundational methods to the public. He states his mission is to encourage a truly scientific approach to life.
Right.
And yes, he uses the term scientific, not centurion or anything else, by simplifying these ancient methodologies.
Right.
But he also makes a claim that really caught me off guard initially. He talks about having a 90% success rate in his critical care healing, which sounds almost unbelievable, but he actually downplays it. He says a 90% success rate isn't extraordinary at all.
Right. He frames it entirely differently than a modern medical professional would. He argues that this high success rate is actually quite normal, if you understand the underlying mechanics of energy.
How so?
Well, his perspective is that severe ailments, including things like cancer, are often the result of modern lifestyles severely depleting our natural energies.
Okay, that makes sense.
So when he utilizes his decades of proficiency to manipulate and transfer energy to someone, or when a person follows his natural spirituality and yoga protocols, they are simply replenishing lost energy.
Okay.
This, in turn, boosts their own immunity naturally by 90%, without external energy healing necessarily. He views it as restoring an energetic baseline that our modern world has just completely stripped away.
That being said, we need to be incredibly clear here, and Osman is very strict about this himself. While he offers these complementary services to enhance care, he emphasizes that his all-natural therapies are absolutely not a replacement for modern medical treatment.
No, definitely not.
If you have a medical condition, his strict advice is to consult a qualified, licensed medical practitioner in your area. His work operates on a complementary, energetic axis, not an allopathic one.
That distinction is paramount. Enthusiasm for ancient science should never, ever override practical medical safety in the modern world.
Agreed. And just to throw it out there for those interested, through his free YouTube channel, he provides unique advice, direction, and techniques. He also has a Patreon channel for paid live, daily video, online lessons, one-on-one consultations, and group sessions.
Yeah, he really covers all the bases.
He does. And while the premium energy healing service is exclusive to the paid platform, he doesn't withhold information from his YouTube channels. All the relevant educational information is free.
That's a very generous approach.
It is. So the mission for our deep dive today is to deconstruct the mechanical, the mathematical, and the mystical architecture of ancient mantras based entirely on Osman's 50 years of specialized experience.
I'm ready.
We're going to look at how these incantations are physically built, the grueling discipline required to activate them, and what actually happens to a human being when they reach the absolute peak of this ancient science.
It's going to be wild.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start by fundamentally redefining what a mantra actually is in this context, because we really need to kill the good vibes definition right out of the gate.
We really do. If you walk away with nothing else today, understand this. In the framework Osman provides, mantras are traditionally understood as precise, calculated incantations.
Not positive affirmations.
Exactly. They are not gentle reminders to love yourself. They are specific combinations of sounds, syllables, and words that are engineered to grant the reciter access to distinct mystical powers, or what he calls higher dispensations. The goal is not a shift in mood. The goal is altering your actual capacity to interact with and shape reality.
Okay, when I read the notes for this section, there was a number that made me stop and reread the sentence.
Yeah.
Like 3 times. Osman mentions that in his estimation, there are potentially 33 million such mantras.
33 million.
33 million. That doesn't just sound like a big number. It sounds mathematically impossible to catalog. I mean, think about it. We have, what, roughly a couple million known species of animals on Earth?
Roughly, yeah.
Are we saying there are 33 million entirely unique, distinct incantations? Or are these just, slight phonetic variations of a few master chants?
The tradition posits that they are distinct formulas. And the sheer volume 33 million suggests a highly categorized, almost encyclopedic ancient science. It forces us into an ancient worldview, where the universe is viewed fundamentally as a resonant construct.
A resonant construct, so built on sound.
Precisely. In this paradigm, reality isn't just matter. Reality is frequency. So if you have a universe built of infinite frequencies, you theoretically have millions of specific sound combinations that can interface with those frequencies.
Oh, wow.
It implies a universe where specific acoustic sequences, when executed perfectly, act to unlock specific material or spiritual outcomes. It's akin to looking at, say, a celestial periodic table of elements.
Right.
But instead of mixing carbon and oxygen to get a chemical reaction, you're mixing frequencies and syllables to get a metaphysical reaction.
I'm still stuck on trying to visualize how that works in practice.
Sure.
So it's almost like software.
In what way? How are you connecting those?
Well, think about the sticky note on your bathroom mirror that says, "You are beautiful."
Huh.
That is analog text. It's meant to be read, interpreted by your human brain, and hopefully it makes you feel a little positive emotion.
Sure.
But a traditional mantra seems more like typing encrypted code into a command terminal on a computer. The computer doesn't care if you feel positive. It doesn't care if you have a good intention. If you type the wrong alphanumeric string, the program simply will not run. The lock won't turn.
That's a highly effective way to frame it. The universe is the operating system, and the mantra is the execution command. If you miss a semicolon in a line of code, the software crashes.
Exactly.
In this science, if your pronunciation, rhythm, or internal focus is slightly off, the frequency doesn't match, and the program of the mantra fails to execute. But here is where your software analogy actually needs to be taken a step further, because software doesn't run in the air.
Right. It needs a machine.
It requires hardware, and Osman explains that these spoken mantras do not exist in acoustic isolation. They have a physical architecture that must accompany the spoken word. This is where the paradigm gets remarkably tactile. Every single mantra comes with a corresponding tantra.
Wait, hold on. Let me stop you right there because I need to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, and I know exactly what the listener is thinking right now.
I bet I know what it is.
When most people in the West hear the word tantra, they immediately think of couples wellness retreats, sting, and very specific physical intimacy practices. You're saying in this ancient context, a tantra is geometry.
Exactly. And it's vital to clear that misconception up immediately. The popular Western association with the word tantra is a massive modern oversimplification. It focuses on a tiny, specific sliver of a much broader philosophy.
Okay.
In the strict structural context of mantra science that Osman is describing, a tantra is a highly precise geometric diagram. It's the visual, physical blueprint of the acoustic sound.
How does a geometric drawing physically relate to a sound, though? Are we talking about cymatics, where sound waves create patterns in sand?
It's conceptually similar to cymatics, but far more deliberate and functional. The tantra serves as the visual manifestation of the acoustic frequency. Osman details how practitioners don't just draw these on paper, they often carve these specific geometric diagrams onto small copper plates.
Wait, copper plates?
Yes. These are intricate designs, perhaps a double triangle interwoven with specific ancient alphabets or symbols, totally depending on the specific mantra.
Okay, but why copper? And what do they actually do with this plate? Do they just stare at it while they chant? Because I'm really trying to picture the physical act of doing this in a room.
The physical plate is actively integrated into the practice. As a practitioner recites the mantra over and over, going through their thousands of repetitions, the copper plate is believed to actually collect the accumulating power of the incantation.
So it's a battery.
Think of it exactly as a sort of spiritual capacitor or battery. The choice of copper is fascinating, especially when you consider its highly conductive properties in our modern understanding of electricity.
Wow, so they're essentially speaking a charge into a piece of conductive metal.
That is the conceptual framework, yes. And to preserve that accumulating power, to keep the geometric diagram and its stored energy intact and close to the practitioner's own electromagnetic field, they will often roll that small copper plate up into a tight tube.
And wear it.
Exactly. They then wear it physically on their body, usually strung around the neck or kept securely inside their clothing right against the skin.
See, this is entirely different from the close your eyes and imagine a white light meditation I'm used to.
Completely different.
This involves metallurgy. It involves carving artifacts, wearing physical anchors. It is a profoundly physical grounding practice. But there's a third piece to this puzzle.
Oh.
Right, you have the sound, you have the copper diagram, and then there is the entity.
Yes. And this introduces a triad that is fundamental to the architecture: audio, visual, and entity. Every mantra is tied to a specific deity or powerful entity.
And when we say deity, we aren't talking about a vague, formless cloud of universal love here. Osman describes them as very specific humanoid entities.
Very specific.
But not necessarily human. He mentions they might have multiple heads, they might have 4 arms or 10 hands, and each hand is holding a different symbolic object. And their aesthetics vary wildly, right?
Oh, massively. Some are described as incredibly pleasant, beautiful beings, while others are distinctly fierce, intimidating, or even what we might classify visually as demonic.
Which is wild. Why such extreme visuals?
It serves to create a highly focused, localized point of concentration. You aren't just broadcasting sound into the void, you are speaking the exact frequency, you are physically anchored by the geometric diagram accumulating the charge on your chest, and you are mentally directing all of this focused energy toward a specific visualized entity that embodies the power you are attempting to access.
It demands everything.
It demands total, absolute engagement of the human operating system voice, body, and mind.
Okay, so let's say I'm sold. I want to access one of these higher dispensations. I want to learn one of these 33 million highly specific encrypted software keys. I want to carve the copper diagram, and I want to visualize the 10-armed entity. Where do I actually find the instructions?
Good luck with that.
Right, because I'm assuming I can't just type wealth mantra blueprints into Google and get the authentic ancient code.
You certainly can try, but according to the tradition, you won't get very far. Knowing that these components exist is one thing. Acquiring the actual functional blueprints is entirely another. Now, Osman notes that physical books detailing these mantras do exist.
Okay, where?
He specifically mentions the state of Kerala in India as a major hub for this. Kerala is widely recognized as the historical and cultural heart of Ayurvedic medicine. He points out that there is literally a university there dedicated entirely to the science of Ayurveda. And intertwined with that vast medical science of herbs and physical ailments is the deep preserved science of mantras. The books showing the exact phonetic combinations, the geometric tantras, and the descriptions of the deities are kept there.
Right. So, theoretically, I could book a flight to Kerala, buy the oldest, most authentic book I can find, memorize the syllables, memorize the geometry, carve my copper plate, fly home, sit in my living room, and start reciting.
You could do all of that, yes.
But Osman is incredibly clear about one massive rule here. If I do that, it will fail. The program will not run. Why? If I had the exact code from the authentic book, why doesn't it work?
Because you are missing the principle of authoritative lineage. Osman states explicitly that a mantra must be imparted to you by an authoritative teacher who already possesses the power of that specific mantra.
Wait, really?
Yes, you cannot self-initiate simply by reading the syllables off a page, no matter how accurate the page is.
I need to wrap my head around this. So it's like someone handing you the blueprint for a Ferrari. You can stare at the blueprint online all day long. You can memorize every single nut, bolt, and wire of the engine. You can even build the car perfectly in your garage.
Right.
But you are not driving anywhere without the actual physical keys to turn the ignition.
That's a very solid analogy, but let's deepen it a little bit. The teacher isn't just handing you a physical key. In this tradition, the teacher isn't just passing on phonetic information either. They are not merely an instructor correcting your pronunciation.
Then what are they doing?
When an empowered teacher speaks the mantra to a student during an initiation, they are executing an actual energetic transfer. They are imparting the latent, living power of the mantra, which they have cultivated within themselves, into the student.
So the text in the book is essentially dead.
Exactly. The text is a dead wire. It requires the breath, the intent, and the accumulated power of someone who is already a living conduit for that specific frequency to jumpstart the circuit in the student.
Which perfectly explains why the internet, for all its vast, endless information, cannot hack this system. You can download the data, but you cannot download the energetic transmission through a PDF.
You cannot.
But this raises a huge red flag for me. How do you know if a teacher actually has the goods? We live in a world overflowing with self-proclaimed gurus, online life coaches, and spiritual influencers.
Yeah.
How does a seeker verify the authority of a teacher who claims to hold the genuine power of an ancient mantra?
It's probably the most critical question a practitioner can ask, and Osman addresses it directly. He says, you must rely on historical confirmation and the consensus of a dedicated community.
So background checks.
Basically, yes. You do not just take someone's word for it. You look for a teacher whose authority and tangible power are attested to by a community of serious practitioners. You are looking for a verifiable history of that teacher successfully imparting this power and a clear, unbroken living link in a chain of transmission that stretches back through time. It requires immense discernment.
Okay, so let's play this out. Let's say you do the hard work. You exercise discernment, you find the genuine, authenticated teacher. You receive the true energetic transmission of the mantra. You learn the geometric tantra. You memorize the exact image of the deity.
You're all set up.
You have the blueprint, the copper plate, and the keys.
Yes.
You start doing the grueling daily repetitions. What are you actually working toward? Because Osman talks about a specific final phase called maturation, and the way he describes what happens when you hit maturation sounds absolutely wild to my Western ears.
Maturation is the definitive term used to describe the absolute peak of the practice. It is the moment when the accumulated energy of your daily repetitions finally reaches a critical mass.
The capacitor is full.
It is the moment the capacitor is fully charged. According to Osman, at the stage of maturation, the practitioner actually comes face to face with the entity, the specific deity of the mantra.
Face to face. Okay, I need you to clarify this because my mind immediately goes to a Hollywood movie.
Like a Marvel movie, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Am I sitting in my living room chanting and suddenly a 10-armed glowing being physically drops through the drywall into my house?
No, and Osman is very careful to clarify the mechanics of this vision. You are not seeing an apparition with your physical, biological eyes. He explains that you are seeing this entity through what he calls your third eye, or your inner eye, or perhaps perceived deeply through the heart center.
But he emphasizes that it feels entirely real, right?
Absolutely. To the practitioner, the experience is as clear, vivid, and undeniable as seeing another human being standing in front of them with their naked eye. But it is entirely localized to their own expanded consciousness.
Oh, wow.
It is invisible to anyone else who might be standing right next to them in the room. You are accessing a higher dimensional manifestation that is tuned specifically to your upgraded internal receiver.
Okay, so you meet the entity, you've achieved maturation. What happens then? Do you get 3 wishes? Because he makes it very clear that the power you gain is not some cheap Harry Potter-style magical conjuration.
Right, there are no magic wands.
You don't recite a wealth mantra, and suddenly a pile of gold coins spawns on your carpet.
Correct. The universe doesn't operate on cartoon physics. Instead, reaching maturation grants what Osman calls a higher dispensation. It's essentially an alteration of the probability matrix of your life regarding a specific domain.
Altering the probability matrix.
Yeah.
Break that down for me, because that sounds like science fiction.
Think of life as a landscape filled with friction, obstacles, and closed doors. If you achieve maturation on a wealth mantra, or perhaps a mantra dedicated to vast educational knowledge, it doesn't drop the end result into your lap.
Okay.
Rather, it makes the acquisition of those desires drastically easier. It removes the unseen friction between you and your goal. The path suddenly clears. Improbable, highly lucrative opportunities naturally present themselves. If it's a knowledge mantra, your cognitive capacity to absorb, retain, and synthesize complex information expands exponentially. It alters your trajectory by smoothing the energetic waters in front of you.
And Osman shares some of his own profound personal experiences with this. Remember, this is a man who has been deep in these practices for 50 years. He describes encountering divine entities. In one instance, he mentions meeting a male entity that, to his perception, looked remarkably like a beautiful, out-of-this-world girl.
Which is a fascinating detail because it reminds us that the aesthetics of higher dimensions do not neatly align with our earthly biological expectations of gender or form.
Right, and the way they communicate is equally mind-bending. He says they don't speak like humans do. They don't move a jaw, push air out of lungs, and vibrate vocal cords.
No, it's completely telepathic.
They speak the language of higher dimensions. It's like downloading massive blocks of thought and conceptual understanding directly into your mind instantaneously.
This ties into a profoundly deep concept regarding the fundamental identity of these higher entities. Osman notes that when you encounter them, you instantly know who they are without any formal introductions. Let's contrast this with our earthly experience for a second. In our world, a person's physical appearance and their name or identity are completely separate things. I have to verbally tell you my name for you to know it. But in these higher refined frequencies, an entity's appearance is their name.
Wait, their visual form is a direct expression of their fundamental nature.
Precisely. Their visual signature contains the entirety of their identity. When your inner eye perceives them, the comprehensive knowledge of who and what they are is instantaneously downloaded into your consciousness. It is pure, unmediated, direct knowing.
That sounds incredibly beautiful, but, and this is a big but, it is not all beautiful androgynous beings offering telepathic wisdom. And this brings us to what I found to be the most intense, chilling part of Osman's experience.
The fear aspect.
Yes. He talks about mantras that lead you to entities that are genuinely terrifying. Mantras where the deity is explicitly described as fear personified. He says you can do the grueling years-long work to reach maturation. You can carve the copper. You can do the millions of repetitions purposefully just to come face to face with the ultimate, most fearsome embodiment of absolute terror imaginable.
The psychology and the mysticism embedded in this specific concept of fear personified is staggering if you really sit with it.
But why? I mean, why would anyone willingly subject their nervous system to that? It sounds like actual psychological torture.
Osman explains the mechanism, and it is a brilliant piece of spiritual engineering. Think about it. When you finally meet the entity that is fear personified, when you stand completely exposed before the absolute peak, the ultimate undiluted maximum of what fear can possibly be in the universe, what happens to your daily anxieties?
Oh, everything else becomes a joke.
Exactly. Everything in the earthly realm becomes completely laughably inferior.
It renders you utterly fearless. Because I'm trying to imagine this. Once you have looked the actual god of fear in the eye and survived the encounter, what is a bad performance review at work? What is a scary medical diagnosis?
Exactly. What is physical danger?
Right. Every earthly threat pales in comparison to the pure, undiluted archetype of cosmic terror. Osman says it grants you powers of incredible strength and victory, purely because you simply cannot be intimidated or manipulated by anything in this world ever again.
It functions as the ultimate cosmic form of exposure therapy. In modern clinical psychology, we treat phobias by gradually exposing the patient to the source of their fear.
Like with spiders.
Right. If you are afraid of spiders, we show you a picture of a spider, then a video, then a spider in a jar across the room, until your nervous system habituates and stops overreacting.
Okay, I see where this is going.
This ancient practice proposes something similar, but on a massive metaphysical scale. You bypass the specific, petty, earthly fears. You go straight to the source code of fear itself. Facing and surviving the absolute peak of a concept nullifies its power over you in your daily biological existence.
If you're listening to this right now, I really want you to just pause and imagine that. Imagine the level of dedication, the sheer, unbreakable mental fortitude required to wake up every day for years, purposefully, just to summon fear personified so you can conquer it. Think about how that contrasts with our modern culture, where we download an app to help us avoid even the slightest bit of discomfort or anxiety.
It's night and day.
It really is. What stands out to you about that level of commitment? Because for me, it speaks to a discipline that is almost alien.
It's alien. And that level of commitment cannot exist in a vacuum. It requires a rigid structure. It requires a rigorous, almost punitive daily routine.
Yeah.
You do not reach the stage of telepathic downloads or survive encountering cosmic fear by casually chanting for 5 minutes on a Tuesday when the mood strikes you.
Definitely not.
And this brings us to the underlying engine of the entire practice, the mathematics of devotion. How does a practitioner actually measure their progress? How do they know they're getting closer to maturation?
And this is where the ancient mysticism suddenly starts looking like a highly demanding mathematical equation. Osman breaks down the strict numerical rules that govern these practices. The baseline unit for recitation in mantra science is generally 1080.
Which is a very specific number.
Very. This is usually tracked using traditional rosaries, or malas, which have 108 beads. So completing the rosary exactly 10 times gives you 1080 repetitions. That is considered one singular foundational set.
If you look at the rule books from these various lineages, they are mathematically ruthless. Why 108? Why 1080? Osman himself admits he didn't know the exact historical or cosmic origin of these specific odd numbers, but he emphasizes that the protocols are absolute.
You can't just round up.
No, some modern practitioners might try to round up to 1,000 or 1,100 for convenience, assuming the intention is what matters. But the traditional texts demand exactly 1,080.
Why the exactitude? What does the math actually do?
It forces a severe precision of attention. You cannot simply zone out and let your mind drift to your grocery list while your mouth moves. You have to be meticulously, continuously tracking your place in the count. These strict counting mechanisms act as heavy anchors for the mind, demanding an absolute, unbroken focus that prevents the consciousness from fragmenting.
And then there is what I like to call the streak rule. And this rule is brutal.
Oh, it's devastating.
Let's say your teacher gives you your requirement. You must do one unit, 1080 recitations, every single day.
Yeah.
If you do this perfectly, with intense focus for days, weeks, or even months, building up this massive charge, but then you miss a single day, you get sick, you get busy, you just forget, just one day missed. Osman says you lose all the previously accumulated power, you drop back to absolute zero. You have to start all over again.
It is the ultimate test of unbroken devotion. But mechanically, why does it happen? Think back to our copper plate and the idea of a capacitor. The energetic charge you are building is highly volatile. It is not native to your normal physical state.
Right. It requires the continuous daily application of the frequency to maintain and build the charge. If you break the circuit, if you miss a day, the containment field fails. The accumulated energy instantly dissipates into the atmosphere. You cannot pause the charging process. It is either building or it is gone.
That is terrifying. Months of work gone in a day. But thankfully, there is a safety net. Osman explains the concept of the lock-in. If you can maintain the streak flawlessly for 10 days straight, which mathematically equals 10,080 recitations, the power of those recitations locks into your energetic system.
Yes, the lock-in is crucial.
Once you hit that 10,080 mark, you secure that baseline. If you need to take a break for a few days after that, you won't lose the power you've banked.
The 10-day mark acts as a threshold of permanence. 10 days of unbroken high-volume frequency application alters your energetic structure just enough that the change becomes stable. The energy integrates. It doesn't evaporate the moment you stop chanting. It is exactly like a save point in a brutally difficult old-school video game. Think about it. If your console gets unplugged on day 9, you lose all your unsaved data. You have to grind all the way back to the start of the level. But if you can just sweat it out and make it to that 10-day save point, your progress is recorded on the memory card. You can finally put the controller down, wipe your hands, and breathe for a second.
It's a very apt modern analogy for a very ancient spiritual mechanic. And from those 10-day save points, serious practitioners build toward massive, staggering numbers. The major milestones, the moments where you experience a profound level up in your capacity, occur at every 100,000 recitations.
And again, Osman is incredibly specific about the math here. 10 sets of 10,080 equals 100,800. But the milestone isn't 100,800. The milestone is exactly 100,000. When you hit exactly 100,000 recitations, you receive an incremental, undefined power leap. A new level of mystical capacity is permanently conferred upon you. And then you start striving for the next 100,000, and the next.
But this introduces a massive logistical biological problem. Osman points out that some of these ancient mantras are incredibly long and phonetically complex. Just reciting 1,000 of them might take a highly focused practitioner over an hour.
Wow.
10,000 would take 10 hours of non-stop, breath-taxing speech. 100,000 would take 100 hours. There are only 24 hours in a day. Yet Osman states there are advanced practitioners who strive to complete 100,000 recitations in a single day. How is that biologically, physically possible?
This is where the physical body begins to transcend its normal biological limits. Osman explains that as you progress deeply into the practice, you receive the power of supernatural speed. Practitioners develop the ability to recite a long mantra 108 times in a matter of seconds.
Which sounds impossible.
He says he has personally heard someone do this. To the naked ear, it just sounds like a blur, a sudden hiss of rushing air.
But let's analyze the acoustic reality of that claim. Is the practitioner just slurring the words together into a hum?
No, and that's the crucial part. The mind is intentionally hitting every single alphabet, every single complex syllable perfectly. It is not slurring. It is executing the code at an inhuman velocity.
Which highlights the true nature of the phenomenon. The physical manifestation of the speed, the tongue twisting incredibly fast, the diaphragm pumping tiny bursts of air, is actually secondary. It is the mind that is operating at a higher accelerated clock speed.
The brain gets upgraded.
Exactly. The hardware of the brain and the neural pathways to the vocal cords have been fundamentally upgraded by the energy of the mantra to process and articulate complex phonetic sequences at a rate that defies ordinary human biology. If you were to somehow record that hiss of air and drastically slow the audio down in a studio, the tradition asserts you would hear every single syllable pronounced with perfect clarity.
It absolutely blows my mind. The speed of the human mind artificially accelerated to outstrip the speed of normal sound processing. But hitting those insane mathematical counts isn't the only requirement. You can't just be a fast-talking spiritual machine living however you want.
No, your whole life has to change.
Right. The physical body and your daily lifestyle must rigidly align with the specific demands of the incantation. And these rules vary wildly depending on what specific mantra you are practicing.
Because the prerequisites and precautions are deeply intrinsically tied to the nature of the deity you are attempting to invoke. You are trying to match their frequency. Osman gives a great example of a mantra dedicated to the goddess of wealth. To properly engage with this specific frequency, the practitioner must adhere to absolute extreme hygiene.
Like how extreme?
They must wash thoroughly from head to toe daily, constantly wear immaculate, perfectly clean clothes, and maintain a strict, pure vegetarian diet.
Why so strict on the cleanliness?
Because the physical vessel must be kept in a state of pristine purity to resonate with the refined, pure nature of that specific higher dispensation. If your body is processing dense, heavy foods, or if you are physically unclean, your baseline frequency is simply too low to interface with the mantra.
But then you look at the other end of the spectrum, and it is a complete contradiction. Osman notes that there are other mantras, often tied to more fierce, intimidating deities, that have completely opposite physical requirements.
Yes, the fierce deities.
Some actually require the consumption or offering of meat that has been ritualistically sacrificed to the deity. Others require the offering of alcohol. And he notes that when the practitioner consumes that specific alcohol during the ritual, it isn't considered regular drinking or intoxication. It acts as a blessing that actively advances their power within that specific lineage.
This perfectly illustrates that the path to power in this ancient science is not a monolith. It is highly compartmentalized. The physical constraints, whether they involve austere vegetarian purity or ritualistic alcohol consumption, serve a dual purpose. First, they align the practitioner's physical vibration with the specific entity. Second, they deeply isolate the practitioner from normal mundane life.
How does it isolate them, though?
Well, if you must wash every time you touch an unpurified object, or if your diet is so severely restricted that you cannot eat with your family, you are forced into a state of separation. This physical isolation heightens the ritualistic, altered state of consciousness necessary for maturation. You are no longer living in the normal world. You are living entirely within the operational parameters of the mantra.
So what does this all mean for the seeker? It means you can't just stumble blindly into this. You have to know exactly what metaphysical door you are opening and exactly what the bouncer at that door requires of you before you knock, which is why Osman stresses the absolute necessity of something called Jnana Yoga.
Jnana Yoga translates roughly to the yoga of knowledge or wisdom, and Osman makes it emphatically clear that enthusiasm without education is highly dangerous in this space.
Yeah, you can't just wing it.
Exactly. Before you start chanting ancient syllables, carving copper, and attempting to summon humanoid entities, you need a robust theoretical education. You need the intellectual framework to distinguish between entities that are genuinely helpful and those that are fundamentally harmful, chaotic, or misaligned with your path.
He speaks from deep, sometimes painful experience here. He admits that over his 50 years of practice, curiosity killed the cat. He went into very deep exploratory practices, pushing the boundaries of what he could contact.
Which is incredibly risky.
It is. But his safety net was that he had the theoretical knowledge of Jnana Yoga, and he learned from empowered teachers who could guide him, rather than just downloading a PDF and starting from scratch in the dark.
It is a vital precaution. He is advising people not to treat this ancient technology like a new meditation app on their phone. However, amidst all these severe warnings and rigid mathematical rules, he also shares a profoundly beautiful perspective on faith and the ultimate freedom of the practitioner.
I really like this part.
While he advises people to generally stick to incantations that fall within their own established religious or spiritual framework for psychological safety, he recognizes the ultimate autonomy of human consciousness.
Yes, I love this part of his message. He says that while your physical body might be restricted by circumstances or by the severe rules of a specific mantra, your mind and your heart possess absolute, unassailable freedom.
True freedom.
No external force, no teacher, no entity can go inside your head and restrict your mind from experimenting. No one can stop your heart from believing what it wants to believe. It's a powerful acknowledgement that at the core of all these rigid, mathematical, terrifyingly complex protocols, there is an untamable free human consciousness driving the whole machine.
The physical rules, the geometry, the street counts, they are merely the containment field.
Yeah.
But the human mind is the plasma. It is free, volatile, and infinitely capable of exploring the unseen dimensions of reality, provided it has the courage, the education, and the discipline to do so.
What an incredible journey this has been. From the idea that there are 33 million hidden sonic keys to the universe, to the physical tantras etched in copper resting against a practitioner's chest, to the telepathic multi-armed deities that wait at the finish line of maturation.
Just a lot to take in.
We've unpacked the punishing mathematical discipline of the streak, the saving grace of the 10-day lock-in, and the staggering reality of human beings training their biological hardware to articulate hundreds of thousands of syllables a day at the supernatural speed of thought. It completely recontextualizes what we think we know about human potential and ancient wisdom.
It does. And if we look back at the sheer breadth of what Osman has shared from his half-century of practice, I think it leaves us with a profound, lingering question. If an ancient practitioner, through nothing but sheer discipline and sonic technology, can train their mind to process and articulate complex, specific syllables at speeds that sound like a mere blur to the human ear, if they can accelerate their consciousness to that extreme degree, What staggering latent capacities of our own minds are we leaving entirely untapped as we casually, slowly scroll through the endless mundane distractions of our modern lives?
Wow. That is exactly what I'll be thinking about tonight. Are we just idling our engines in the driveway when we could be flying at supersonic speeds? We hope this deep dive into the architecture of ancient mantras has given you an entirely new perspective on what is possible.
It's definitely changed how I view it.
For sure. Remember, if you are curious about Osman's foundational work, his free 5-minute yoga and meditation program is available right now at yogawellness786.com. You can also find him on Apple Podcasts and Spotify by searching for The Blind Muslim Yogi. Thank you for joining us at the table as we unpack this incredibly complex topic. Keep questioning, keep seeking, and we'll be here next time to take another deep dive with you.